being joined in the program by Director, Commonwealth Institute and Chairman, June 12 Movement, Professor Anthony Kila, who is going to be helping us break down this particular broadcast by President Bola Tinubu. Thank you so much, Prof, for coming on the program.
Good to be here. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Perhaps the natural place to start, your impression of the President's speech.
Well, I think it was a good speech. Overall, I think it was a good speech. At least it was my kind of speech, because those who follow my writing and my opinion on speeches, I've advocated for over 12 years in this country that, especially in the last 4-8 years, that there should be a distinction between the speech of May 29th, which is an accountability of governance from the day you're sworn in, and June 12th, which is a celebration and recognition of Democracy Day. And the president talked about his moral and constitutional duty as a direct beneficiary. Let me absolve my own moral and historical duty, given that I'm a very known critic of the Buhari administration, to appreciate the past President Buhari, under whose watch this day became recognized as Democracy Day. I say this because if you ask me what Buhari has achieved, I'll say this is the only thing he achieved. Every other thing pales, every other thing he touched went awry. So recognizing this day, especially because before him, others had the opportunity of doing it and they didn't do so, and it happened under him, I think we should recognize that administration for that. In terms of today's speech, I think it was a good speech because I've always argued that on this day, we should talk about democracy, not about governance, not about my administration. And I think the president fulfilled that well. He almost became like a priest or, a moralist or a theorist of democracy. That's a good thing. The problem with him is that it's not enough for him to talk. He will be judged on his action as well. And so far, not so good. Let's be frank with ourselves. That's a problem, though. But in terms of the speech, which is your question, Geoffrey, how was the speech? Mm-hmm. The speech was good. My impression was that it was well crafted. It understood text and context of democracy. And when he inserted himself saying, I'm a direct beneficiary of that, therefore, I understand the onus on me to perform very well, and I promise to do so. The problem we have is that the fruit of his labor have not yielded results yet for most Nigerians, if we want to be objective, where at the moment now, he says, the way we've been doing it has been wrong. And he used a good expression. It's not my expression, but, it's the kind of expression people like him use, the social democratic kind of people. He talked about economic democracy. We must admit that under him, we're not doing well on that one. That must be very clear. We shouldn't dance around it if we have a conscience. So far, so bad on that. But he says, we are rebuilding, we're reforming. So at the moment, in terms of the economic democracy, we're in a situation where some viewers will know that at home or when you go to a restaurant, when they tell you, just hang on a second, we're cooking the food. It's going to come and it's going to be great. So far, we're hungry. The food is not there yet, but he says, wait, it will come. That's where we are. That's the one paragraph inserted of his administration. The rest was the greatness of democracy. I also like, as you've mentioned, the fact that he actually listed, the heroes, the gladiators who stood for this democracy. Mm-hmm. And it's a good list. Not complete, because but it can't be complete. He was going to list everybody. That would be the speech would just be, here's the list. But he listed some very crucial people. I think in a very Nigerian way, federal character, cross-party, cross-region, he tried to pick on everybody. So I think it was a well-crafted speech. Some people sat down and thought about people like me who will come and look for what is wrong with it. And it ticked all the boxes. So to that extent, it was good. He talked about, strangely, he also recognized the media, so you guys should be happy, he recognized your batch with their names, some newspapers. He left out labor. I think that wasn't good, because he mentioned some individual leaders in Labour, Franco Correa, my mentor, some other people. The late Franco Correa, they still sound alive in my mind. Those are people who groomed people like us. But he left out Labour, which played a crucial role. That institution, that is a strange thing. But overall, I'm not a very generous marker, but I will rate this high, generally speaking, yes.
Yes, indeed, Prof. And your point about the need to talk about democracy,
Yes.
as an ideal is quite appreciated, and not necessarily about governance,
Yes.
but really democracy is a form of governance.
Yes.
And so perhaps it's also important to reflect on where we are as well. And for me, it's particularly instructive because, as I said earlier, one of the high points is that the president himself was one of the heroes of democracy, and he acknowledged it by saying that he is morally and constitutionally bound, to also sort of midwife the developmental process, which is where I want us to reflect on. Are there any signs that there is clarity of purpose and the approaches to taking Nigeria out of this economic woes that we currently find ourselves in? Because if indeed the president is one of the heroes of democracy, then Nigeria should consider itself lucky to have him as a president at this point in time. But are there any signs that indeed the administration wholly has a clear understanding of how to take us out of where we are to where we want to be?
Well, the problem with governance is that you don't judge it on intention, you judge it on fact. Until we see the fact, we can't say it's good. You might have very good intentions, and this government is high on intentions, but until you actually bring the food to the table, nobody can say how good you are, a chef or a cook. That's the problem we have with that. So, as he says, wait. We just have to wait. The other side of it is that whilst waiting, what we can't do, though, is demand. We can demand, for example, that the government stop being wasteful, So a government that says, wait, we're working for you, should not be sending 19 billion on Hajj. A government that says, wait, we're working for you, should not be splashing money on new cars for legislators, as if they came to Abuja without cars. They did have cars. Perhaps the government who says, wait, we're working for you, should not be renovating houses with billions, not as if the roofs were leaking. Those are the kind of contradictions you get. It might sound populist because overall, those amounts will not change the economy. I say it's an economist. It's not that if you don't buy cars, all of a sudden the Nigerian economy will be better. No. It's just as it sends a wrong signal. And as somebody who, perhaps not hero, as one of the soldiers of democracy, who the president is, those things should be understood, that it is important to send the right signals in democracy as well.